Welcome to Trestle Times Talks, the voice of Franklin, New Hampshire. This is brought to you by the Franklin Communications Group, which is a nonpartisan, volunteer-powered network bringing local news and community stories to your ears. Subscribe to stay informed, share to keep your neighbors in the know, and if you've got news to share, the contact details are in the show notes. Now, here's what's happening in Franklin. Hello and welcome to the City of Franklin Candidate Series. We're thrilled to bring you conversations with candidates running in the 2025 October municipal elections. Thank you all to our subscribers. Your interest helps illuminate the civic conversation in our community. Today's guest, we are pleased to have Sam Jacobson, who is running for City Council in Ward 2, opposed by Glenn Feener. Sam, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Sure thing, Erica. Happy to be here. I'm excited to, use this to get to know more people in Franklin.
And for them to get to know you. So could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your background, history, job, school, whatever?
Sure. Yeah. Well, like you said, my name is Sam Jacobson. I'm running for City Council here in Ward 2. I live on Forest Street, which is just off of Bow Street, down by Odell Park. Encourage anybody who wants to come see me, say hi. But, I grew up in Pennsylvania. I work as a geologist for a company here in New Hampshire. And I spent a lot of my time doing kind of like property redevelopment and reclamation work. So a lot of things having to do with dirty water, dirty dirt, environmental contaminants and those kinds of things. So if you hear about kind of brownfield sites or Superfund sites, it's that kind of work. Kind of like what's happening at Stanley Mill. That's the kind of work that I do.
A topic that does need to be brought back up again in meetings. Yes,
it does. It does. It's got a lot of opportunity for the city for some additional parking downtown, which I think we all can agree is something that's sorely needed. So as part of that work, I have to integrate a lot of different data sets, stuff from different points in time, different media. And I think that kind of analytical mindset is really needed at the city council level. So I'm eager to bring some energy and some of that analysis to the city council, to the problems facing Franklin, and eager to see us kind of keep moving forward. I feel like when I moved to the city, there was a lot of momentum, a lot of kind of energy and excitement around what was happening downtown, new businesses moving in. And I want to see that. I want to see that come back here. I love living here.
Momentum. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, Erica, you put the nail on the head there. It's the momentum of the city that we need to keep it going, and make sure we don't get off track here. So that's what I'm excited to bring. I'm happy to talk more in detail here. But yeah, once again, my name is Sam Jacobson, and excited to chat today.
So you've covered some qualifications. And you kind of covered, was there anything other than wanting to keep the momentum that inspired you to run for city council in Ward 2?
No, when I look at the city council meetings, which I've been going to pretty much since I started coming here, I see a lot of kind of ebbs and flows in what the council is doing. And I understand there's a process and a need for that. But in my eyes, it's something you just got to roll up your sleeves and kind of get your hands dirty. So I think that I could really help with some aspects of the process, and I've been trying to advocate for that as part of public comment and to councilors specifically. But I'm excited to kind of throw my hat in the ring and like I said, kind of channel that energy into Franklin and make it a great place to live. It's already a lot of fun. The community's super welcoming, and it's a little gem here in New Hampshire. So eager to see that kind of move forward.
So that's a vision that you have for City of Franklin, is to the momentum to move forward and to build it into what it can be.
Yeah, exactly. So, I live on Bow Street, or I live off Bow Street, but anybody that lives on Bow Street knows that there's a lot of walkers around here, and I love walking downtown. Erica, I think you live walking distance as well.
I do.
This is a community that it welcomes people with open arms and really shows them that there's lots to do here. There's the outdoor recreation at the Whitewater Park downtown, but also up at the Veterans Memorial Ski Area. There's mountain biking, there's hiking, And then, you've got the Winnipesaukee River Trail. It's a great place to live, and it's got so much to offer. And really, I think that we just need to kind of get the word out and get people in here, because we're sitting on a real opportunity.
We're the big hidden gem in New Hampshire.
There's thousands of people that drive through Central Street each day, and we're lucky enough that we get to stop here. We don't have to drive through. We get to stop. We get to live here. Get to go up to Webster Lake. Go for a swim. Get to surf in the wave. It's great.
2 beaches.
It's what?
We have 2 beaches.
2 beaches. That's right. When one beach isn't enough, we added another. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's issues up at the lake. Short-term rentals are a large issue and something that needs to be discussed. And I think the council should be grappling with that. I think you saw that, Janet Flagg brought up some other ordinances that could be, and I think should be considered by the council to help control the kind of short-term rentals and the cost that imposes on the lake. But yeah, we've got a lot of good things going for us here.
So digging into community issues and policy questions, many residents are concerned about affordability.
Of course.
Because things are getting tight. Things are getting tight here too. How would you plan to address that cost of living in Franklin?
Yeah, I think the cost of living question is really foundational. I'm a taxpayer just like you.
Yes.
And I want to see my taxes be used efficiently and effectively throughout the city. That being said, we live in a tax-capped city, and so we are paying for that. We're paying for that. The city is needing to do more with less, and things are starting to give. So I think that the solution for that really is some longer-term planning by the city council. What I've observed is that it's always the council is very reactive to problems, right?
Yes.
And that's understandable. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. When you've got a canyon up on Pleasant Street, you want to fill that canyon. But fundamentally, that's just treating the symptoms of the problem, and it's not treating the underlying problem. So in the case of roads, for instance, right? If you drive on the roads in Franklin, if you live on the roads in Franklin, you are wearing down your car, right? And you and I are going to pay for that. And while we may not have individual potholes that we're hitting every day, those potholes develop because the city has not over the last 10 years or so
maintained.
It hasn't maintained, and it hasn't funded the capital improvements plan, right? So last year, Olivia Zink did a lot of work to try and working with other counselors and members in the community to kind of come up with a prioritized list. And what we saw from the council now, my opponent included, was a lack of actually putting money towards that. So it's one thing to have a list, but that's only the first step. We actually have to put money towards that. And that kind of consistent local dollar investment for depreciating assets like roads and buildings and trucks.
That's a normal everyday expense that all cities have that we need to pay attention to.
Exactly.
It's like me planning to have a few extra $100 over here in case, something breaks in the house.
Right. It's like, it's the city. It's not exactly a household, but it's almost like we need an envelope system for our city budget where every month we're putting $20,000 into the capital improvements fund. And $20,000 isn't a lot, but it adds up over time, and we will see it as the roads, as we're slowly investing in ourselves. I think there's other things that we could be doing to bring external dollars in, like advocating at the state level for some additional school funding, but and we should continue doing that. But fundamentally, we need to be funding these repairs for ourselves. It's preventative maintenance. It's like a pound, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And We're stuck in the cure stage right now, and it's killing us.
Because if you seal cracks, or just seal the top, sometimes it won't get to the condition that the road into Odell is at, where it's crumbling in chunks from the side.
Exactly. And if you go on Prospect, it's more patch than pavement. It's like what's going on here? and the other thing, not to get too much in the weeds, but at one of the more recent city council meetings, because the council had had put forward a spending freeze, right? Municipal works could not get their pavement painting, right? The road painting
Hmm.
done early in the season.
Hmm.
And I learned something about pavement painting that day, which is when you do it late in the season, like in September, like what we just did, or August, um, it doesn't adhere as well and is more likely to come up. And so the former city manager, Scott Clarenbach, had said that there was potentially, a different epoxy paint that we could use, but that epoxy paint was more expensive. And where we ended up, the painting done, but where we ended up was using the cheaper paint later in the season, which means it's not going to last as long, which means we're going to be paying for it again, right? And what that comes down to is a lack of foresight from the city council. You know, so
And
that's
as you said, we have like so many people over that main road all the
exactly,
time.
exactly, yeah.
Large
Everybody,
trucks, small cars, bicycles, everybody.
right. So anyway, I see that kind of behavior on the city council and that kind of decision making, and that's what makes me want to throw my hat in the ring, um, to try and fix these problems.
That's a good discernment. So you touched on, school funding. We had a podcast with Brian and Liz about that. How do you see Franklin moving forward successfully with public school?
Yeah, I mean, public schools are obviously huge. They're a huge expense for the city, but they
Mm.
also form the bedrock of our community, right? So, you're a realtor, right, Erica? I mean, you know that property values are tied to school
What
performance.
school? I want my kid to go to this great school. I want to live in this town where they're going to go to this great school. Yeah.
Exactly. And beyond the dollars and cents, I mean, kids in this community are should have the best education that they can. We should be providing for these kids, and right now we're not. And so when you look at what the school district is doing, I think they're doing a couple of really good things. They're trying to regionalize some of our special ed costs, right? So working with other districts like Winnisquam uh, to try and share those costs where appropriate, right? So if we could staff a whole, a whole day's worth of speech therapist by pooling our students together and scheduling them for like 8 1-hour sessions, right? That's more efficient than having one speech therapist kind of travel, 3 hours to Winnisquam and then go back home for an hour and then an hour back to Franklin, an hour back home, right? So regionalizing those costs and trying to lower those special ed costs, that's one thing that I think the school is doing really good and really well, and I would support. The second thing that I think that they're doing really well is exploring these kinds of trade relationships with local employers like Watts.
Yeah.
They've got folks in town. We're lucky enough to have a large employer like Watts and other kind of manufacturing operations that have really skilled technicians that are working there, right? And so I would push the school to be partnering with them and utilizing some of those skilled machinists, right, to come and teach a shop class, or get some students kind of over there for some job training if they're if they keep their grades up and if they're qualified. I think that partnership should absolutely grow. Um, so that's another thing. And then in the era, I guess two more things. One is that in the era of open enrollment, I see that as a real differentiator for Franklin on a regional scale, right? I could imagine somebody who wants to learn how to use a lathe in a professional capacity would come to Franklin. Like I see them coming to Franklin to learn how to do that because that's something that we really offer. Or in the same way that we draw people to the city, to the school for our theater program and are literally performing on a state level in that capacity. I see that for theater. I see it for our technical arts. And I really think that our school has a lot to offer. Now, the second thing that I wanted to just mention quickly about the school is that we need to be advocating for our state reps to bring those dollars in from the state level to fund an adequate education. And so that's another piece that I would look to really push for. I know Representatives Thibault and Morse and Gonzalez are um, they're working hard in the state house, but fundamentally they're not. They're expanding EFAs, but not actually funding adequacy funding. So I was doing some back of the envelope math the other day, and it's something like $2.4 million between what the Supreme Court says that
Should.
or the Supreme Court says that the state should be funding for kids' education and
What they actually are.
what they actually are, right? So on a per student basis, it's something like $4,000 to $7,300, and if we multiply that times the number of students that we have, that's where that $2.4 million comes from,
Hmm.
and that's that's real dollars for the city, you know.
Yes,
It's
because if they're paying, if they're adding that money in, the city is not going to have to boost that extra as well.
right. So exactly, and I'm not saying that all of that 2.4 is going to uh, go into the city's side of things, but um, that's a large chunk of money, and it really is important to bring that in. Our district has done a lot, like the SAU has done a lot um, with the resources that they have, and will continue to do so, I believe. But they could really be energized. That's a lot of money, and so our representatives should be advocating for our students on the state level, and on the city council level, we should be pushing our representatives to do that.
Okay, excellent. Speaking of city council meetings, they tend to be long and demanding. I can hardly attend them sometimes myself.
Mhm.
How do you plan to be effective and engaged in those sessions?
I think we need to reformulate how we're working on the city level. And when I say reformulate, I really mean go back to how the city council is supposed to work. So, as you know, we have a series of subcommittees like fire, legislative, and police, and the joint finance committee with the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the solution instead. Right now, what we are doing is we're bringing all of the business of the council up in a giant public meeting that
Yes.
runs for hours and hours and hours, that members of the public like you and me like can't follow. We don't know what's going to come. We don't know what's going to be brought up in late business. We don't know. And frequently, when we look at the backup, like the packet that's provided with the city council, um, it's really thin. And so what that means is that during public comment, we, the public, don't can't comment because we don't actually have the information. And so I see
Indeed.
this.
That's occurred to me multiple times.
Yeah, I know. It's occurred to anybody that has stood up there in public comment and looked at an agenda item and said, what does this mean? I don't know. Let me look at the backup that's provided, and it's a one sentence thing, or it's a one pager with no, or it's a table without headers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the pages aren't even in the packet. So
So some pre-planning and presentation for the meetings, especially if you're expecting. I believe I've heard other city council members make note of that. It was fairly incomplete as well.
yeah, and so the way that I would like to see the city council function is an agenda item goes through its respective committee. As part of that committee process, it's going to go through two or three city council members. There's going to be some exposure to the municipal government. So, for instance, if we're talking about fire, right, on the fire committee, I think there's two counselors right now, and the fire chief, and I think there's at least one representative from the public. So, if we're talking about a new fire ordinance in town, or um, let's say it's a firework regulation that has to go through fire, that fire committee can dig deep into the details and have an honest conversation, and then come up with their recommendation that they bring forward to the council.
As
That
opposed to having the council just kind of shoot from the hip on
exactly,
discussions and
exactly,
making motions and then undoing motions and
right, exactly. And so they, like the fire committee in this hypothetical example, would create whatever is going into the packet. And then, by virtue of only a portion of the council, two or three members, being part of that committee, they have to provide the backup, enough backup that gets the other six members to vote with them, right? Or to follow whatever they're trying to do. And so that level of persuasion and level of backup for their decision making is then open to the public and provided for public comment, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how the system that's how I would like to see the system work. And what we've seen from this city council is not that. It's late items, it's uncertain amendments, and
So you have
yeah,
a better understanding of the setup of the city government. Whose job is it to put those together?
the agenda or
Mm,
the packet or
the whole
both.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a team effort. By and large, I think the mayor sets the agenda and is responsible for setting the agenda.
Okay.
But other counselors can and should, put things on.
Yeah.
Another kind of this played out in real time with the kayak man fiasco, which was a waste of time in my opinion.
Mhm.
So the whoever put it on the agenda, whether it was the mayor or a city councilor, um, you know, didn't do their research and didn't know that the city was going to have to pay to move it. And so they're talking about writing a letter to, you know, whoever the property owner was or something like that. It got really convoluted and it turned out to be a real nothing
Waste of
issue.
time.
It
A
was a
waste of
waste.
time.
And so when that can happen in committee, right, in the planning committee, for instance, uh, that issue gets ironed out and it's actually a stronger recommendation that's provided to the whole council, right? And that's how we are dividing and conquering. And by the way, from a transparency perspective, it allows folks that are concerned about a fire issue or concerned about a planning issue to go to those respective meetings and know that that's what's actually going to be discussed.
That's true. You can actually get a better idea of what's going to be talked about on the information that's included. Just so that you know, Sam, your picture is frozen.
Well, I'm looking at a black screen here, and so I don't know exactly what's happening.
Do you just want to touch your mouse, maybe? Wake it up? I don't know. At any
Yeah,
rate, we can still hear you and we can see you. It's just frozen.
let me see
Um,
these things.
so election and leadership is our next set. Yay! There you
Hello.
are.
Hey, I can see you.
We could see you too. You were just frozen.
Oh no.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Well, I'm back. I'm still here.
This is real life. So,
Yeah.
our next section is election and leadership. Voters will also be choosing other leaders, including the mayor.
Mhm.
Do you publicly support any candidate for mayor this year? You don't have to, but it's just a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I 100% support Glenn Morrill for mayor. Um, when I think of Glenn, I see somebody that is really emblematic of that Franklin community. He's welcoming people with open arms. He's introducing them to the history of Franklin. I mean, you talk to him, he'll tell you about which mills closed when and what they used to produce back in the day because he's lived here for such a long time.
Yeah.
He's someone who I think will really cheerlead and not just cheerlead, but really kind of make the council accountable for its decisions. And I think he's eager to see some of that forward progress kind of continue. He's someone who's volunteering his time and not posting on Facebook about it. He's someone who is building up these organizations and building up the city in a way that really grows community, and that's why I want him as the mayor. Honestly,
Okay. Thank you for your perspective. So let's talk about something maybe positive, like what are Franklin's greatest strengths and how would you like to build on them as a city council member?
yeah, I think, like I said, Franklin's greatest strength is its people. The community here is second to none. I've lived in places like Manchester and Boscawen in New Hampshire. I've also lived in places like suburban Philadelphia, and I've lived up in Canada, and
Canada, eh?
in Canada A, exactly. In none of those places have I felt welcome like I felt in Franklin, and I think that's its strongest aspect. Period. And so, what I would like to see as a city councilor is the promotion of other kind of um, community activities. So things like First Day down in Trestleview, or Community Day, right? Or the class parade, you know, or the Renaissance Fair, right? We do all of these things, or Thursday nights at the vets, you know, just because like sometimes I go up there and I'm not riding, I'm just going to see my friends. And that's really what separates Franklin as a small city from.
There's so many things to do.
There really is. And yeah, it's wild. Like I spend a lot of time down at Trestleview Park, and I've been able to talk people into going boogie boarding, just
Yes, it's because you're so friendly and welcoming,
Well, I was talking to my friend Amber early this season, and I was like, she would come there and she was sitting, she was enjoying the park, and I say, hey, Amber, like you should consider jumping in. She's like, no, I can't do that. And I said, 2 weeks go by, hey, Amber, the water's getting lower, the days are getting hotter, like let's jump in. And wouldn't you know, after watching it go down for a little while, she jumped in the water and she got on the wave. And
nice.
And the same kinds of things happen with like up at the vets, right? They're offering skiing and sledding at really low or no cost.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you can go up there. You don't need to know how to do anything. They'll teach you. Folks will teach you. They'll have you over for dinner. You know what I mean? Like this is really what separates Franklin from
as a city.
Yeah. I mean, we're not a Pentecost. We're not a Laconia. We're not a Plymouth even. We want to know the people that we live with, and we want to enjoy our time with each other. And so, anyway, as a city councilor, I would be looking to introduce folks to their neighbors, get them out from behind the keyboard,
yes.
And helping each other out. I think that's Franklin's greatest strength, and that's what I want to capitalize on.
We have a pretty good farmers market too, which is really nice.
Exactly.
Like, if you live here long enough, you're bound to walk by something happening downtown.
Oh, yeah. And you see it with folks that just moved into Stevens Mill, right? It's 150 apartments that came here really because of some of the energy and forward momentum that was here. And those folks are being welcomed into Franklin. I've seen it happen. Down at the farmers market, over at Vulgar. I've seen it happen at Trestleview. I've seen people start coming in from Canterbury because they say, hey, something cool is happening in Franklin. I want to go out. I want to have a little night out here. And
it's pretty cool.
It's our responsibility, I think, as a city to both foster those kinds of community connections. And, this ties into things that are directly in front of the council, like Soldiers Memorial Hall and that renovation, right? We should move that project along because we're already paying for it, and we are not reaping any benefit until it gets completed. Right? That's both a city council meeting place as well as a potential as the Opera House going in there. It's a stage that brings people into town and puts Franklin
business.
Back. Yeah. So anyway, a long-winded way of saying I'm looking at my neighbor's house right now and I'm smiling because we were talking the other day, just shooting stuff.
Good catch, because I don't have a bleeper. So closing and personal note, what sets you apart from other candidates in your ward or even across the city?
I like to think that I'm a pretty positive person, and I think that I'm thanks, Erica. I'm a pretty positive person. I'm willing to talk with most folks, and I think that I bring a lot of analytical skills to the table that can really help the city. I'm not going to be, I'm not turning over tables here, but there are some changes that we can make that will really kind of put us back on the right foot. And so I see really some positivity. I see some energy, and I see a willingness to engage with anybody in this city to solve its problems. Those are my strengths. And I don't necessarily think they're unique to me, but I think they do set me apart.
I would agree. Those are definitely your strengths. So how can residents get in touch, follow your campaign, support you?
Yeah. I mean, they're welcome to come down 16 Forest Street. It's a little blue house. You can see it from Bow. That's the easiest way. You can find me out usually at Trestleview. or I'm also knocking doors. So I was up over on Prospect and on View Street. I'll be at the Candidates Forum later this month on the 29th. And I've also set up a QR code, which maybe I can share with you, Erica.
You
But
can. I can display it now.
yeah, it's a way for folks to scan it and set up a time to either meet with me over at Analog or get on the phone, or if you just want to set up a time to talk, just talk face to face. I'm happy to do it. Like I said, really.
If you have it now, you can send it to me and I can display it, or I can put the link in the show description.
Let me see if I have it pulled up here. Where is it?
So why don't you send it to me and I can put the link in the show description? How about that?
I think I actually have it pulled up here.
Okay. So send it to trestletimes@gmail.com.
Okay. I will send it to trestletimes@gmail.com. And is there a way for me to share my screen? I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that. I only know how to control my side.
How's that?
Looks the same.
Can you see it?
No.
Okay. Well, I will. Oh, wait. Here. Hold on a second.
Ooh, there you go.
How about that?
Boom.
Voila.
There's the QR code.
There's the QR code. I'll send it to you as well, Erica, but scan it. It opens up a little, pause the podcast. You can see what's up there. Find me on Forest Street or just stop me on the street. I'm happy to talk always.
Excellent. And is there any one final message you'd like to leave with the voters of Franklin?
I think the only thing I'll say is that we've got our challenges, but we really have the tools to address those challenges. We're a tax cap city, and that tax cap is going to remain until we vote it off on the ballot. So that's not on the ballot this year. You're going to hear people talk about, oh, this, tax cap that. He's going to get rid of the tax cap. I can't do it. I can't get rid of the tax cap. We have challenges. We'll address those challenges. And I just don't want to see us devolve into a community that stops seeing the person across the street, helping them out with their groceries, digging them out when it snows, and just sits down and has a good time with them at the end of the day. We can disagree on the kind of direction of the city, but we need to continue having those conversations. And I think we can and we will here in Franklin.
Nice. Be kind. Just be kind.
Yeah, it goes a long way.
It does. Awesome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to interview our next person. We'll see who it is. Maybe you know some of the other candidates who would like to be interviewed.
I can certainly reach out to those that I know. I know Ben Forge is over in Ward 1, and he's, again, another lifelong resident of Franklin who I'm sure would be interested in chatting with you.
Excellent. I'll reach out to him.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks for tuning in to the Trestle Times Talks from the Franklin Communications Group. Like, subscribe, and share to support local voices. And if there's news we should cover, our contact info is in the notes. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay Franklin strong.